I personally met John a half hour ago. But I've known him for 4 years, since I've been back here in Florida. The story. I actually came to know, came to talking to him personally through John Anderson, who has a friendship with Patrick Morley. I know Patrick Morley as well, through another colleague of mine. The nice thing about it is when you have men who know other well-known men who can come in and share their pearls of wisdom. What I love about John Rivers' story is that he came from a whole nother place. Okay, he's a retired president after 20 years of a healthcare company, a fairly sizable one. And you go, well, how did you get into the restaurant business? And that's going to be his story. I love it because he had this dream of doing this, and now it is a reality. And the way he runs his business has no economic cycle when it's done right. And he's got a philosophy of building a business and concepts that is unique. As a result, he has earned these distinctions as you see up here. And most recently, he wrote a cookbook, which I think is so interesting from a healthcare background. But he's got some really important things to say about how a company runs itself with a philosophy and a moral foundation that doesn't change. So, John Rivers, Four Rivers Restaurant Group.
Thank you so much. I think it's funny you reference the healthcare and the cookbook in the same sentence. You haven't seen my cookbook clearly. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a great privilege and honor to be here. And let me start. Aside from saying thank you, please, as I speak today, I'm here to serve you. I have a presentation, but at any point you want to interject, ask questions, talk about brisket, I am happy to go down any one of those trails for you. And if you guys keep me on time back there, it would be super. First of all, just a little bit of history. Oh, yeah, that was to make you hungry. Oh, good. We're actually getting ready to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. We opened October 26th in 2009. The business, consequently, started years and years before that, and this is such an important piece for entrepreneurs. I graduated college in '89, and I moved out to Texas, and I say when I went to Texas, I met the two loves of my life, Monica, my wife, and brisket, when I was there. And it lit a fire literally in me that I grew up in Jacksonville and went to a lot of different barbecue places there. But when I was in Texas, I saw something completely different. I saw a smokehouse, and it really ignited a flame in me of something. I remember telling Monica all the time, this is really what I want to do. But we were dating, engaged, and I was just starting my healthcare career, and I never forget her reaching over in the car and patting my knee, and as I'm expounding this vision and this idea, she says, honey, maybe we just stick with a solid job and build this and build our family. Well, I did for 20 years, and I was very blessed in that career, and eventually we started a company. I was with Johnson & Johnson for many years. And other ones, we started this pharmacy. We actually built it up to $2.5 billion. We took it public and had the opportunity to sell it to a company called Express Scripts out of St. Louis. And in that process, I never lost my passion for cooking and for barbecue in particular. And in about 2005, there was a little girl in our community that had cancer. And we were trying to help them as a family. And at the end of the day, they wouldn't take money from me, but they would allow me to do a barbecue for them at their church. That barbecue became the genesis of our barbecue ministry. So literally out of the garage for the next 4 years. Of those 4 years, 2 years, I was still in my current position in healthcare. Anytime kids or schools or churches needed money, I offered to write them a check, but I'd really offer to bring my smoker out and cook for them And we did it over the years, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and Monica would always tell me, you're just doing this so you can get bigger smokers. Year. That last year, out of our garage, we served over 40,000 people in the ministry. And we never did it for money. We never took a penny, as a matter of fact. Everything always went back. That basis, that heart, eventually became our company and our culture. That first little store that we opened back on Fairbanks, this is the unit that we took over when we did it. Have you guys ever go to our first little store? Yeah. Oh, God bless you. You parked in one of 11 parking spots. Maybe you parked in one of 11 parking spots. This wasn't supposed to be a restaurant. This was supposed to be a commissary we could actually run the ministry out of. And lo and behold, people lined up, and we were blessed with it, and it turned into a business. And from 2009, we opened up some other locations, and we were blessed with those. People kept lining up, and before you know it, we had a lot of restaurants and a lot of locations on our hand. Today, we've got 15 of them in the restaurant division, and we have about 1,200 employees. But at the end of the day, this is one of the most important things, we still run it like a ministry. Our foundation and what we do and giving back to the community is still our biggest KPI, as a matter of fact. How many lives are we impacting? And my job is to get every one of my employees to take a look at their job that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. They're not serving a brisket sandwich. They're changing a life. And when I can get them to see it in that perspective, it puts their job and their activities in a very different light, and they will act a very different way. But we're not here to talk about my business or my ministry. They asked me to talk about recession-proof, okay? So I'm going to dive into that a little bit, but I will give you a snapshot of where we are today, okay? And I'll explain how we got to each one of these and the rationale behind it. Today we have a restaurant division, which is here. All of our locations will expand all the way to Atlanta to Coral Springs. Our restaurant division now, actually 2018, topped 50 million, and we're on track probably about 53, 54 million right now. We're not opening any new locations, and we'll get into the reason of why we're not getting any opening them in just a bit, but the business has been healthy over the years. We branched off and diversified the portfolio, and we're going to talk about this in a bit, but about 3 years ago, the restaurant traffic counts, which is another KPI, started going down. Okay? The entire industry, as the market began to move outside of the walls of the restaurants, going to Uber, going to to-goes, going to catering, everything else. I looked at my portfolio, and I had one bubble. I had one round bubble with 100%. Everything was vested in the restaurant industry. And I said, this is not a good strategic place to be. We've got to take a move if we do it. We talked about CEOs just a second ago, and I'm going to compliment and talk about that. There's an analogy I use between the entrepreneur and the CEO, or really the COO and the CEO. And it's like you're in a submarine, okay? The CEO's job is they're looking at the periscope, okay? They're looking out of the periscope, and they're looking at what's coming up, okay? And they're planning into the future how to maneuver to or away from that, okay? The COO, or the typical entrepreneur, is looking down. Okay, they are looking at the details, they're looking at the engine, they're keeping an eye on everything that has to be run. Okay? If you are trying to do both, one of the two will get compromised. You have to pick your skill. I'm a horrible operator, horrible. I get bored to death if I'm looking at the same thing on a day-to-day basis. The first person I hired actually a year before we opened the store, was my COO, because I knew that was my weakness, my deficiency. And I knew that if I wasn't looking up here and I was looking down, we would never grow from that perspective. As a CEO, I took a look at that portfolio and I said, we have to diversify that portfolio. And we went into two different directions. We created a division that leveraged the brand and leveraged the product and opened up a manufacturing division. So I have a little place down in South Texas that we are manufacturing brisket, ribs, turkey, pulled pork. Everything is branded under our name. We're now in Cisco. We're now in U.S. Foods. We just got picked up by PSG. Just won Walt Disney World account, Royal Caribbean account, Tampa Bay Bucs Stadium, University of UCF Stadium, Florida Stadium, Florida State. That business is growing. I just hired a president, matter of fact, to sit over that division. The other division that we created to leverage the brand, once again, was our sauce and retail division, okay? Same products, we moved it into the retail division. We picked up Publix about 3 years ago. We have 6 SKUs in Publix today, and we just got awarded Costco. As a matter of fact, so we'll be rolling out into Costco this summer for the first time. And so I created non-restaurant divisions that complemented and leveraged and drafted off the brand, which is an important piece, okay? Then our last piece, and our most important to me, is our foundation. Our foundation last year touched 1,722 different organizations and all the markets that we're in. And we don't talk about the dollars that are given out, but it has grown year over year, and it's a key piece of what we do. Why is it key? Okay? And this will be one of the last points that I'll make with you today at the end of the presentation. A business, just like anything else in life that takes two parties, is predicated on a relationship. Okay? You talk about you serve, you talk about what you do for them. At the end of the day, you're in a relationship with, in our case, our guest, but also our community. Okay? Think about a relationship you're in today. Your spouse, your child, okay? Whoever it is. If you were on that side of the relationship, taking everything, I want your sales, I want your sales, I want your sales, and I'm going to give you a pen, okay? I'm going to give you, hey, a thank you card for your birthday. How long is that relationship going to last? Okay? A relationship is give and take, and it's understanding what the other side wants and needs. Our job as we go into new markets is we have to create a relationship, establish one with that community. So we take all those typical dollars that we would be advertising with, we put them back through the foundation to reach out to the community. Before we open a new market, we've already done a dozen events at different churches, at different schools, where we're giving out product, we're helping launch whatever fundraiser it is for them. Now think about it this way, okay? If I was going to go into a new market and I spent $1,000 on an advertisement that runs in the paper for a day, okay? Are people really going to appreciate and understand who we are as a brand? If I take that same $1,000 and I put it into a donation, okay, of product and my people going to XYZ school's fundraiser that's bringing in all these 700 families, okay? Those 700 families are going to taste my product, are going to meet my people, okay, build that relationship, and you know what? They're going to know that I gave it to them as a donation, so I've aligned affinities. I have aligned myself with my guest, okay, and I'm building that loyalty. This piece of it, of everything we do, that's the cornerstone. That's the cornerstone we built it from, and the cornerstone we continue, we have to foster it. Okay. This started out as 6 tips, and more ideas kept coming on, so I just kept writing them down. Now, I will say this, okay? Presentation that you just heard is your foundation, okay? If you don't have a handle on your metrics and your numbers, all this other preparation, it's for naught, okay? If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it, okay? And it's really that simple. So from that, a couple different ideas, okay? Now, all this is under the premise of do this while the market is healthy, okay? It is amazing when that red light is going off how different your decision-making process is, okay? Do it now while you're clear, okay? And do it while there's no pressure. And to be completely forthright, I would do it quickly. The market, we keep calling them recessions, but they're really corrections. And if you look back historically from an economic perspective, it happens. It happens every, 8 to 13 years. And it's over and over. And some of the early signs are already happening today. When you start seeing mortgages being done with no collateral, okay, with a zero down, okay, we're overextending as a community once again. It will correct itself. So I would do this. Everything I'm showing you, we're doing right now, as a matter of fact. And some of them are tough decisions, but I'd rather do it now versus a year or two from now if there's something happening in the marketplace. This is number one. You start taking a look at our commodities, okay? I'm going to hedge as much as I can of my raw costs. Some of that might mean that I'm going to change ingredients that are going into a production or a process, or I'm going to try to lock down contracts on a long-term basis. And I've got my purchasing team today going after contracts as something as simple as sugar or ketchup, in addition to my main proteins, okay? The more I can lock those down, the safer I am. And the hedge comes on how long out I can lock it down for. A manufacturer will lock it out for me for 6 months. It might cost me a half a point. A year it might cost me a point. And we just have to figure out where's that point. But get everyone in the mindset of that and begin to lock down your raw costs as much as you can. Number two, this is a tough one for entrepreneurs. And I'm saying this firsthand. Success breeds an awful lot of temptation, okay? And that temptation is the moment you're successful with your brand or your company, everybody wants you to be part of what they're doing, okay? Because they want to leverage that success to help their success. And we'll get phone calls. We talk to a lot of young restaurateurs who are doing great. Oh, hey, what do you think if I go into this stadium? Or what do you think if I open up another chain or another brand or so-and-so? If you've got a storm that's coming, okay, and let's just call it the recession or the correction, if you've got that's coming, you want to start pulling in your furniture, okay? You want to start locking things down as much as tight as you can. And the opposite, if you start risking, okay, and the home run is the hardest one to avoid the temptation. Because, oh, look how much I could do with this. Well, if I go and I open up this business, okay, think of how much capital it's going to take, okay? Think of how much people it's going to take. Think of how much attention it's going to pull away from my core business. Now, it doesn't mean to pass on opportunities that make sense, but the bigger the home run, the bigger the risk is going to be, and typically the bigger the investment's going to be. So we've got a few right now that we have a team. Funny enough, we do a book study in our organization. And every Monday, it's open up to all the managers, and we'll have about 30 participate. We read a chapter, and we come back and we take it apart. And the books will change from quarter to quarter, and one of our most impactful ones was traction as an organization. So we actually do the ROCKS model, and we do an ongoing gathering. Well, every Wednesday morning for 2 hours, my senior team, which is only 6 people, we meet and we have a true open discussion where no titles matter, nothing is held back, the hard questions are asked, and it is singly the most valuable thing that I have in my position. Because you think about it, when you're the CEO, how many people are truly telling you what's on their mind? How many people are going to tell you, oh, I think you're doing the wrong thing? My spouse does at home, and I wish that she would come to work sometimes. You miss that at work, and if you can have that open, honest dialogue, that's one of the most valuable things you'll have as an organization. Okay? Be careful about these. Try to avoid them. Have a team that will keep you in check. Next one, tighten your processes to eliminate inefficiencies and waste. I do the same thing today that I did back in the healthcare days, and if we're not having a fire drill, which happens from time to time, from year to year, I would create one. I'd create a fake one, okay? It is amazing what complacency will do, how much inefficiency it creates. When you're doing well and things are rolling, why are you going to look under the trunk? Why would you lift that up? Sometimes we force ourselves to, oh my gosh, I got to shave 2 points off my expenses, I got to increase my EBITDA by 300 basis points. Now all of a sudden I'm turning over things. And what's amazing, when we go through these exercises, I will force our company to do it at least once every year and a half, okay? At least the things that we find, this is what I point out to the senior team, nothing that we found today wasn't there a year ago, which means we live with it. We didn't create the efficiency. We found, well, if we switch this process to that process, or if we move this labor table to this labor table, wow, the impact is Y, Z. It's huge. And if you as a leader, there is absolutely benefit to creating a fire drill. I'm a huge fan of that. And again, if you do it now, you're under a lot less pressure than when the market starts collapsing on you. When the market collapses, think of all the pressure that you get hit with. Sales are going down. Okay. People are trying to hold on to their job as much as they can. You have to let people go. You have to walk away from investments. You have to walk away from advertisement. Some of the things that you've done historically. If your cash position forces you to do so, make these changes, create the fire drill now, and tighten up your efficiencies. We're doing it right now. As a matter of fact, we're 3 weeks into it, and we've already created it's $1.2 million annually straight to the bottom line. And that $1.2 million wouldn't come into existence unless we forced the exercise. Okay? And there's nothing else that's forcing us to do it except for us, ourselves. Okay? Last one, diversify your portfolio. Okay? There's, like I spoke to you earlier, why I did it. I looked and said, I'm in trouble. Now, you have to be careful with diversification. Okay? It doesn't mean if we were to go out and start a sushi restaurant. I don't know if that's not diversification. That is way, way out there. The whole thing about strategic diversification is keeping it brand-centric. Okay? Your guests, that relationship you've established with the community is predicated on you being a certain person. Okay? If you become a different person, you have to start over again. So in our particular case, we had to leverage the brand that we had. We had to leverage the products that we made where we had built that trust, and I had to find new ways and new markets to do it. 2 types of diversification. Oh, wow, look at that. You guys want to review these again? Adjacent diversification. Products or services centric to the brand, core competence, but the services now, which had typically taken place in my restaurants, how do I take these services that I'm good at and apply them in new markets? Okay, this is different from creating a new brand. All right, we took our services and we went into the university markets. We opened Florida State a couple of years ago. Same product, same brand, and quite frankly, I followed my customers. As they graduated high school and they knew my brand, I went to right where they are. And really the play in this. Every year, students that graduate Florida and Florida State, okay, and UCF for that matter, wherever they move, they're carrying my brand. And they are paving a path for me to Atlanta or to Fort Lauderdale or to Miami. We opened a food truck. We went into, this was our biggest one. We went into Disney last year. Okay? We now have 3 business units at Disney. We have a food truck in Disney Springs, and we have 2 concession stands at ESPN, and we're in dialogue with them today to expand this, which is a beautiful thing. We went in and we treated it as important as a store, and it's paying off because now they're seeing that, and they want us to open additional stores and additional locations. This is the only one that was a little bit of a change from strategy. Disney called me about a year and a half ago, said, we really want you at Disney Springs. I'm like, I really want to be at Disney Springs. This is fantastic. And I said, great, I'll bring out my barbecue. And I said, we've already got a barbecue unit out here with like pig. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll bring out our coop, our fried chicken. Yeah, we've already got art out here. We're doing homecoming. And I said, okay, so what do you want me to do? I said, could you create a new concept that leverages your name and your brand, which is kind of against covenants to do that, but for Disney, I said, okay. Now this is one of those home runs that I spoke about earlier. I probably would start thinking twice about now, as we start nearing a correction period. So in this particular case, we leveraged the barbecue products, and we made a barbacoa. Using all of our smoked meats as a base, and then I braised all the meats, put in the different Latin flavors, and we took a food truck of theirs that was doing, I think, an average of $310 a day, and we are now averaging $5,200 a day for them. So it has been a win-win. because it's 100% of it is a revenue share. So they have one, and I have one, and now we're getting another food truck and some other businesses. Same thing with the concession stands. They were operating those concession stands. They outsourced it to us. Revenue went up for them. New revenue came in for me. They avoided their labor costs and all their union issues, and everybody wins, and now we're going to get a couple more of those units as well. Okay. The other diversification comes from extension diversification. Okay? Now I'm taking my products, okay, and I'm going to put them into places where I'm not necessarily operating them. Okay? Remember, I'm leveraging that relationship and that service and the brand and the products. In this particular case, we created our retail division. We got our 3 sauces into Publix about 3 years ago. And it's so funny when I see the numbers, we meet with Publix and stuff, because we don't have a sales force. We don't advertise. Publix called us in November, about 3 years ago, and said, hey, we really want you on our shelves. And I said, I really want to be on your shelves. This is a great thing. And the true story, when we launched this company, we launched it to be manufacturer. And I was so naive, and I thought, we'll just make a product and we'll go bring it to the Publix and the Costco's of the world. One, I had no idea how difficult it was to manufacture, let alone build a brand where nobody knows what it is. And so I remember sitting back with our team and saying to them, you know what, we're going to abandon this strategy and we're going to focus on our restaurants. We're going to build our brick and mortar, and our brand is going to be so strong, one day Publix will call us. And the strategy worked. And we wouldn't be in there if we didn't have the strength of the brick and mortar that built it. So we got those in there. We got into Costco with our cookbook a few years ago. We got into Costco last year with our gift cards. And now we're getting ready to put in proteins and sauces. So 2 different ways that we diversified our portfolio. So now when you look at my circle, it's still predominant restaurant, but I got about 15% of it that has moved off of it. And based on the accounts we've already picked up this year, my hope and my plan is to get it to at least 50-50, split between those 3 divisions, because each market will ebb and flow. And it's one ebbs and one flows, the other one will go up and down too, and it keeps us afloat at the end of the day. Okay, a couple of other things. Bolster your financial position now. Just like the mortgage companies are making loans, banks today are making loans. Banks today are open to recap and refinancing, and banks today are giving out lines of credit. Okay? That will change dramatically when the market begins to correct. Okay? And it's funny, that's when we tend to say, oh, wow, now I need that money. Of course you need that now because everything else is falling apart. Go and secure this. We just upped our line of credit considerably, and my bank partner asked why. I said, they want to know if we had an acquisition or something come up. I said, no, just want to make sure I'm shoring it up in case we see opportunities that could come up. And they said, absolutely. Today they will say yes. Okay. Now we're working on a recap of our total debt, including our investors, rolling it all into one, and quite frankly, we're actually going to come out ahead because we're going to leverage all of that debt into one financial institution. But point being, do it now. Do it now while the markets don't get caught when everything starts to correct. Okay?
Okay, quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard against that. So when it's interesting that you said it because we had an opportunity to get to pitch your business and get an investor, and then it was like, well, what do I need an investor for? Because I refunneled the money back through the business. So you're saying now, because you're predicting that there is a reoccurring, there's an up and there's a down, that you're going to pull in, maybe open a line of credit, just to have it there, just in case, because when the time is needed, then that'll be the time they probably won't give it to you.
Exactly. And that's a different scenario than an investor where you're liquidating some of your equity.
There's an option of an investor, then there's an option of a line of
A
credit
line of
or
yeah.
bank credit. Which one would you?
Oh my gosh. Line of credit. Investors, and I have too many. I love them all.
You have too many.
That is my most expensive form of debt, of everything. Whether I get a traditional, whether I get a line of credit, whatever it is, because that is equity. That has an equity tie on top of a preferred return. okay? And when you play that out to one day when there is a transaction, by far, that is my most expensive form of debt. Having a line of credit doesn't mean you access it. Just when you sign it, doesn't mean go spend it all. You're getting it for that rainy day that's coming. And consolidating your debt and recapping simply means you're going to lower your interest rates. Okay? You're going to get it in a better position now before interest rates change, or interest rates will probably go down in a recession, but it's the opposite. You won't be able to get the money. Okay? You bet.
Possibilities here. Just to add to that comment, from my experiences, line of credits are good for quick asset leverage, but investors are for different types, and bank debt is for different types. And I think, from my experience, if I might add, what I try to do in this situation is I try to look at where can I take money if the bank also shrinks my line of credit, and they've done that. So you may re-leverage some assets, keep that money on the side to a degree, and use it just to keep down a line or to do a few other things. But shoring up your cash, I think, is your absolute key, and I think it's critical. And as you mentioned, you haven't been in stress until you've been in that stress.
Yeah. There's an old saying that good sales solve all problems. When money is flowing in, it's amazing how clear it is and easy it is to think straight and to do things. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. I know a correction's coming. I look at my menu, I look at my portfolio, and I say to myself, what if my guest only had access to 70% of their income, or 60% or 50%? Could they or will they be able to afford coming in and enjoying my products? Okay? A portion of them are not. So I'm going to think ahead now, and I'm going to create products, okay, or offerings that will eventually appeal to that marketplace, okay? Because it's going to happen. Let's say half of the United States takes a major hit, like they did last time in 2008, 2009, okay? If I don't have an offering, these people may love my brand, but they can't afford to come in. That offering might be something as simple as a sandwich on one side versus a sandwich on two sides. Or it may be a smaller portion, or it may be something else. Have it ready to go, anticipating that market's going to come. And for you guys who, if you're in manufacturing, if you're doing a service like that, it's not as easy as taking a side off. You have to think ahead now and build that product line or product offering so that you're ready to launch it when it does come out. This is positioning, okay? Identify a product in your portfolio that I call recession-proof, okay? That is going to meet the needs economically of the guest, and it's going to meet their needs the desires of what they're looking for, okay? It may not be your A product today, okay? Let's say it's your C product. But if you know that it meets that criteria, and you know and you believe this is coming up in the market, start aggressively promoting and marketing that product today, okay? Get ahead of the curve before that curve comes and knocks you in the back of the head, okay? In our case, it may be chicken, okay? Lower cost, still coming in. Actually, the recession does well for barbecue. Consequently, we think about it, we opened in 2009, right in the heat and the heart of everything. And the reason that it does well for barbecue is because people still have a craving for meat, okay? And going out and finding a place of comfort, okay? And so that they feel better about themselves. Well, we offer the meat at a much lower price than a steakhouse, okay? And we created that family environment that people can come into. So when money is higher in the economics in the marketplace, my customers will tend to go eat out at higher places. So we're okay when the market takes a swing this way, but I'll still lose customers who may not be able to come once a week once every 2 weeks. Have that product, have that portfolio. Might be salads. Start promoting it aggressively today, which is already, we got a whole new line of salads that are coming out and a couple of other things, just to position knowing that this is coming. This is a tough one, okay? It's a tough one on the surface, but you're actually blessing the people you do it to today, okay? Glean your team while the market is ripe, okay? If a correction happens, likely going to have to reduce your team, your head count, okay? Sending a person out in the middle of a recession, how easy is it going to be for them to find a job, okay? If you tighten up now, okay, you'll have a chance to send them out into the market while the market is healthy and they will find a position. The fake fire drill that I mentioned earlier that we're in right now, we just had to displace 3 people. And I sat down with each one of the 3 and told them why we were doing this now and told them how we're going to, and we've already found them jobs, consequently. And that was the important piece about it. But as the owner of the organization, it's your responsibility to do that just for good business, but from a human side of it, do it now. Don't send them out when they got the hardest opportunity, hardest time trying to find a position. Create meaningful connection with your customers. Okay. When the recession happens, when the correction, when the emergencies are going off, okay, you see companies start advertising, acting very different, okay, trying to gain that trust of the customer. Okay. Most discerning customers, they call bluff, okay? Well, you can't just turn on a relationship of trust in particular. To the point that I made in the beginning, invest the time now in fortifying that trust relationship with your community. Okay? How to do that? It's not about giving out brisket sandwiches. In our case, this is our biggest project that our foundation is working on. We have partnered with Orange County Public School, and we are leveraging all of our produce purchases, which is about $3 million a year. Okay? I'm leveraging that to build a farm that'll feed all of the kids at Orange County Public School. Wow. Okay? And we did it. Okay, now, think of that affinity you just felt. Okay, you're going to come see me now when the market's down. Yeah, and you're doing it. This has to be sincere. It'll fall apart if it's not sincere. If it's not in your heart, don't do it. Quite frankly, if forming a relationship with your guests and community is not in your heart, it's going to be difficult to be in business. This one in particular, all those organizations that I mentioned that we touch with the foundation are all over the place. We sat back, my wife and I, and we said, okay, how can we leverage the assets and the blessings that we have today to make the greatest long-term impact in the community? And we looked at the community needs, and there's really not a deficiency of brisket, of ribs that are out there. But in Orange County alone, this is really staggering. Orange County Public School today, 1 in 5 students live in food insecurity. Okay, and I didn't know what that meant when I started doing this 3 years ago. That means when they leave school, they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And some of them don't eat all weekend. And this is in our own backyard, which is ridiculous. When I started this project, it was 1 in 6. Now it's 1 in 5. It's going in the wrong direction. And on top of this, the state has a program that they go out to all the farmers. Keep me on time back there. They go out to all the farmers, and all the excess produce that they don't sell, the state has a subsidy program that they buy back. And they buy it back for 9 cents per pound. It never covers their cost, but it gives the farmer something. Okay? Now the state, through Feeding Florida, goes out and they try to place all this produce at the food banks, at Second Harvest, and all the other 9 food banks throughout the state. All the excess produce that's not distributed, guess where it goes? Landfills. Okay? Ready for this? I asked the question, the simple question, how much goes into landfill? 972 million pounds a year in the state of Florida alone go into landfills, yet 1 in 5 of our children are going hungry. So we said this can't happen. We can't happen. So we created a reverse demand model, taking my demand of $3 million, and I'm driving the channel with it. I teamed up, I said, okay, how can I aggregate more? Orange County Public School buys $5 million a year. Okay, I've now aggregated $8 million. I said, well, who else in the community has a propensity, has a heart for kids who doesn't want to make money at this? And Florida Hospital came to mind. So they committed their $5 million of produce purchases a year. So I've aggregated $13 million of purchases before we even start the business. I've already sold it. Now my job is to do it, is to grow it as efficiently as possible. And all the proceeds, we keep paying what we pay today, 100% of the proceeds go back out to the community and all those areas that people are hungry. So leveraging the assets you have, build the relationship with your guests, and in process, it's amazing how many people you'll impact and improve their lives. All right? Any questions?
I have a question, because this is just unbelievable. You mentioned that you set up a manufacturing operation in Texas. Now, of course, manufacturing is a far different environment than it is in food service and food distribution. And you don't have retail stores over there. How do you maintain the continuity of the culture?
Great, thank you. Day one, because of all those attributes, I outsourced it. I'm a huge fan of invest a little, learn a lot. Okay? You think about it, to grow, you have to make mistakes. Okay? That's the only way you do grow. You're gonna find out what these errors are, learn from them, and correct. Right? Well, you think about it, you're gonna make a mistake on $1 million investment or a $10 million investment. It's the same mistake, and it's the same lesson that comes from it. Do it from the smaller basis. And in this particular case, I outsourced my sauce manufacturing, and I outsourced my brisket and protein manufacturing. And when the business gets to a certain point, I break even, then I'll build, and I'll bring it in.
Any other questions? John, thank you for
You're welcome. My pleasure.